All right, guys, welcome back to Loan Officer Success Live. And man, I think we got a great show for you. What if I told you that most of what real estate agents have been taught over the last 20 years is actually hurting their business? Hey, today's guest believes that's exactly what's happening. So from guaranteed home sales to challenging brokerage models and rewriting the way agents build relationships, we've got Shaune Corbett, and he's taking a completely different approach to real estate. So Shaune, top producing realtor, author of the upcoming Simple Sphere System, and someone who's not afraid to challenge conventional thinking. Today, we're talking about why value beats price, why relationships beat lead gen, and why the future of real estate belongs to agents that are willing to think differently. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here, Shaune.
Hey, how are you, Devin? I appreciate you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And, for those of you that are paying attention, this is actually a part two. Shaune and I bumped into each other around a year ago. I think it was almost exactly a year ago. And, man, I was just so impressed. And we randomly dropped in on each other about 2 weeks ago. It was like, man, we should go again. This sounds like it was a good time. And I was like, challenge accepted.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. So we did a podcast together, and you asked all kinds of, questions and stuff. In a year, a lot of things can happen, right?
That's right.
A whole lot of things in the last year that's changed the way I approach it and the way I work with agents and helping them. And everything I've done to this point has been free. I give everything away. And I think if agents learn to take that mentality, recognizing if you keep giving and building communities and building opportunities, things will come your way that will multiply. And most never get there, right? That's what you're doing, right?
That's it.
You podcast, you interview people, you put it out there, and it's goodwill, and we're helping others with their business. At the same time, there's great connections and great relationships you can build through it. So I love it. Yeah. And I've done a lot of interviews. Your interview questions were great. So I knew there's a lot of energy when we were talking, and I think this is going to be a great interview today.
I agree too. And also you talk about two worlds colliding: Loan Officer Success Live, Real Estate Success Podcast. I think we're covering both sides of the industry, but today we're really here to talk about real estate agents and what they can do to, create success in today's market. So I'm going to start with this, Shaune. You said something that immediately caught my attention. You said everything we've been taught about real estate is wrong. That's a bold statement. What did you mean by that?
Well, and this is even before, I made a move to a new brokerage, before a lot of the things. It's just my mentality when I've done transactions. I've done over 500 of them myself, right? And in the process, I like the psychology of things and how people approach the business. And I start watching the same mistakes made over and over, and the same mentality that agents have about their business. And it's not right. And I think brokers want to hold control when the reality is agents are the one that drive the business, not brokers. You can build your entire business without a broker. You have to have it for of record, for legal purposes, but outside of that, there isn't much else they really need to do to add value, and they're not going to add value to your business. That's the misconception that we have. Right.
Well, you're definitely going to ruffle some feathers with that one.
No problem.
I think that's okay. I think you're good with that, right?
Yeah, I don't do things to directly upset people, but I want to say things that's going to be meaningful, that's going to make a difference. Telling everyone to go out and cold call people for 20 hours a week, or, join the team and the team's going to give you leads. That's not a recipe for a future for you. You win short term, but it's a lot of work, and your hourly wage goes way down when you continue to do things that way.
Right.
We want to find ways to increase our hourly wage, not continue to work for others. And you end up being an employee in a sense. I don't know of anyone that came into being a real estate agent to be an employee.
Yeah.
Outside of Redfin is an exception. And to me, they're just a car dealership, right? Where everyone works for the guy, he brings everything to them, and they have full control over you as a salesperson. Redfin, you've got to sell 3 times as many homes to match an agent that sells a third less to make the same income. But they give you peace of mind. You get continuous opportunities, and you can make that 125,000 a year working for them. And that's not bad. But I think most agents are expecting at least $250,000 plus, and you can do it, almost in part-time hours if you do it right.
Yeah. Well, it's not financial freedom, and that's what you're talking about, is how to become a true entrepreneur and become financially successful in a way that a lot of people are not capable of. We relate that here on our side of the industry and the mortgage side in call centers, right? And to be 100%, as you mentioned, it's not a terrible model for the right person who's looking for stability, right? I've run call centers for decades, but the loan originator on our side of the business, they don't own their business either. So they're literally hoping that the company they're working for is going to provide them with the right opportunities. And when the markets shift or transition, they a lot of the times find themselves looking for new opportunities in different industries. And what you're talking about, Shaune, is rewriting that narrative and saying, hey, I'm going to find a new way to do business that's going to allow for me to be financially successful and allow for me to be successful in any market. And I think that's, super exciting. And that's why we got you here today.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I want to talk about scalable things that anybody can do. I'll give you a quick background to kind of give some connection with this and why all this has come to this point. I started a podcast probably about a year and a half ago. I've done over 80 episodes, and I turned that podcast called Real Estate Success with Shaune Corbett, and I turned that podcast into a Facebook group. Now I have about 1,200 here locally, agents in Dallas-Fort Worth. And what I do with them is I create opportunities for them to grow and learn, and I give them tips all the time. I want to help them and help grow them. And I do events, and the events that I do, I have people come in and teach that are really good at a particular space. And I only require 3 things when we teach. And same thing when I'm talking to an agent. Anything we teach has to be duplicatable, meaning it's easy to learn. It's not something that takes a special skill. I have really good charisma and I know how to communicate well with my buyers and sellers, probably beyond the average agent, but I can't transfer that to another agent.
That's right.
So I have to give them things that they can do that works within all skill levels. The second thing is, let's do it without spending money.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't say anybody can throw up, $10,000 a month to Zillow and you'll fill your pipeline.
That's right.
That's not reasonable, and not everybody's going to be able to do that. So I want to make sure anything that's taught is not something that we spend a bunch of money to do. And then the third thing is sustainable. Okay. I can cold call 20 hours a week, like I said when we came on, and you can do that for a while. But most people aren't built to do that for 20, 30 years. And that's not a really good way to capture a good quality market, because you're only tapping into onesies, twosies. You're not building the relationships. You're not building something sustainable. And you can't do that indefinitely. Most people cannot do that indefinitely. So I want something that we're teaching. It's got to be something they can do indefinitely. Same type of thing, with technology, you change the way you do it, but you're still doing the same type of work.
That makes perfect sense. So again, you're building success in a model that can sustain the distance. And at the same time, get out of the race of I have to spend this substantial amount of money to turn on my lead pool. And the moment I stop spending the money, the leads stop and my business stops. And that's what we're getting away from. So I want to bring this up, and I know we're pretty early on to talk about it, but you've been working on something pretty special. You wrote something called the Counterculture Agent. And I'd love to ask you, what is the Counterculture Agent movement that you're creating?
Well, it's a preface that I created in my Simple Sphere system, right? The book that I wrote to help people building their business. And it is really addressing the mentality. You've got to kind of break the way people approach and see real estate. And there are a number of ways that I look at specific topics and things, and I'll say things that sound kind of outrageous out front, right? As an example, do I even need a broker to sell real estate? And I told you this earlier. You need it for liability and legal purposes, but they're not going to sell real estate for you.
That's right.
So it is up to you to build systems and processes that you can continuously do that's going to help you build a platform to build real estate from. And all the relationships you build are going to be outside of what the broker's relationship. The broker will have no relationship with these people. And I'll tell you, there's some ways you can kind of challenge the view. For example, Devin, you could go change your mortgage company and go somewhere else. And I'm sure most mortgage people have moved to several.
Absolutely.
So you've moved to several at some point too. Any of those clients and people that you have in your database, that's your database.
That's right.
If you learn how to create leverage with it, then that database will follow you and they're going to come to you. They're not going back to the prior broker. For agents out there, you work for Coldwell Banker, you work for KW, and I respect what they've done and built, because they built massive companies. So they've done something right for a long time. But if I close a client, even if Coldwell Banker brought me the client, that client closes with me, I move to another brokerage, that client is going with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So brokers don't even own the clients at that point. So if you can get your mind around that and focus on what you can do to build what you're doing, you're going to find that the sky is the limit, and now you can have scalability, and you're not relying on the broker to create that success.
That's it.
There's some tips there.
Well, and that goes back to what my next question was going to be. And that's, you've said agents are the brand, not the brokerage, right? And why do you believe that's more true today than ever before? Because I think we are in a different real estate stage, right? We're in a different season for real estate and for mortgage.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it goes along with that client will belong to you and your relationship with them. So if you can find a way, and brands only are worth what you put into it and what you get from it, right? So you can join a team, and the team may have a really local, successful brand name. And I grew up in an area with a super competitive, very competitive,
right,
local brands that have owned the market in my particular city for many, many years. In the last few years, those brands have almost all died. I don't see their names anymore. I don't see them taking on listings. I just don't see them anymore, because I know that their market share might have been, let's say I can name 4 brands, probably had 40% of the market share in my city. And I have a very good city. Now I doubt it's more than 10%.
Yeah.
So that brand that we perceive is what's selling real estate is not really doing what you think it's doing. Now you'll get leads, you'll have some systems in place, they built success, but you're not going to build anything beyond that 150 to 200,000 a year gross commission working underneath that brand. And many people are okay with that. They're okay being, the used car guy, where they just keep getting the opportunities, they keep fed. And as long as they keep being fed and they're closing 60, 70 deals a year, they're okay with that. And they'll take the big hit to the commission.
Well, you talk about brand, and I think you share this philosophy with me, because I look at brands in 2 different ways, right? You've got the big box labeled brands, right? Like the KWs of the world, right? But you also have personal brand. And I think this is where we talk about transitioning, because one of the things that you've spoken about is really working the sphere, right? And working the people that you already have in your database. That's where we have to create a personal brand, so that there's brand awareness as to who we are as an independent outside of the brokerage or outside of the mortgage company. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I want to hyper focus on that. It's a good question. When I go with personal brands, I tell people all the time, if you get into the business, really find what makes you excited about what you do, right? It could be military. It could be first-time home buyers. I was talking to an agent the other day I'm going to bring on in the podcast, and her specialty, and I'd never heard this before, but it makes a lot of sense. She says, I don't do investors. I don't do luxury, like intentionally. She said, my person is a blue collar person. Okay. And to go specifically for them, because she can talk their language, she can be the way they are, she can take them for where they're at, and she can help them achieve that goal of buying a home. So her niche is blue collar people. I think I haven't heard someone actually go there. I've heard all kinds of niches. If you're new to real estate, or even if you're in your first or second year and you're still, Shaune Corbett sells Dallas Fort Worth, you got to drop that. That's not going to work. You're trying to capture everything and not lose anything. What you're doing is you're looking at 1,000 people you might get 0.5% of. I would rather get 10 people that I have a 90% on. It's unbelievable. Plus, you're talking their language. You're getting the people you want. And that's for people that don't know you. And here's the thing that everyone that's afraid to get in the niche is afraid of. I'm going to lose opportunities, and I'm telling you, you're not. You're trying to gain opportunities you never would have had by talking and communicating the way they see and understand you. You guys are talking the same language. They'll relate immediately with you. Wow, I am a first-time home buyer. That's what her specialty is. Let me call her.
That's right.
And when I say, here's the important part though, people think they're going to lose something. You're not. What happens is you close that first time home buyer and then her mom needs to sell a house and move closer to them. They're going to refer you and they don't care if you're a first time home buyer. They know you sold and you did a good job for them. They don't care that you're a first time home buyer. They want to work with you because they trust you.
That's it. 100%. And I love that you said that, because I've got a couple different scenarios I'd love to bring up. I've got a gentleman that I did a podcast with a couple of years ago up in Kentucky. And, funny thing is he was just a YouTuber. Actually, I think he was more TikTok and, Instagram, but he did a little bit of everything. And he built this massive brand of people that were following him just because he was honest. They would bring up a topic and he would talk about the things that he, genuinely believed in. And he was a little bit more from the street, right? Younger kid from Kentucky, more street smart. And he went to a real estate agency because they had reached out to him and said, "Hey, you're so good with marketing. Could you help us market our agency?" And he said, "Yeah, no, I definitely would love to show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing the social and how I'm gaining the audience." And so he gets in there and they're like, he's like, "What are you making a deal?" And they're like, "Well, we make this." And he's like, "Well, man, maybe I should get my real estate license." Right. And what's really interesting is he did that and he transitioned into a full-blown agent. He already had an audience who knew, liked, and trusted him because he was honest. That was his brand. His brand was honesty. His brand was speaking to the middle class, as you talk about, right? Lower middle class. And had a banner year in his first year out of the starting gate. No leads, from any type of paid resources, not from the brokerage. It was from the market that he had already created, right? I had another gentleman on the show, works for a major firm here in Dallas, does multi-million-dollar deals. His lowest deal that he takes is $5 million and up. That's the clientele that he works with. He had a great friend that started on the brokerage with him and couldn't get off the ground, couldn't find his feet, couldn't find his footing, right? Transitions to another agency down the block, catering to a different clientele, and took off, right? Because he was trying to get into a sphere that wasn't his sphere. He was trying to tap into a market that were not the people that he was relatable to. And I think that's what you're talking about, is if you can find the niche that you want to serve and stay focused on that and let people know that's who you are, that's what you're about, this is who I want to serve, that's who it's going to come to you. Because otherwise, you're trying to attract everyone, and not everybody's going to love you. There's going to be a certain percentage of people that love you no matter what you do, and that's the universe that you want to be focused on.
Sure. And there's a lot of psychology to that. I mean, you want your connection to be as high as possible when you reach out to someone. And if you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get that connection, it's probably going to be a hard business for you. For people that want to come into a business, they're doing $5 million and up, that is not for all agents. I don't know if that's a space I would really want to be in.
Yeah.
I don't really talk their language. I don't cater. I don't have concierge. I don't have things that would be the standard expectation, and that's not an easy place for everyone to fit in.
Absolutely.
So you would have to work, and you're going to miss out on a lot of the opportunities they give you because it's not your natural space. So I think that's really a critical thing for anyone out there, right? Find something that really speaks your language, your culture, your experiences, and you'll find that you're going to have a higher connection with people that don't know, like, and trust you. These are the people you don't know. So I love all that for sure.
Well, let me ask you another question. How do you think the internet has completely changed the relationship between agents and consumers?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? And this is part of my counterculture thinking, and it's really looking at the way brokerages came, right? So we had brick and mortar. I think Coldwell Banker was the original brick and mortar setup, where they would have an office and then they would develop and train agents on how to do real estate transactions. And, for years it was seller only. And then we grew into co-agents, and then we went from co-agents to buyer agents in the late 90s. But what really made the difference is when internet came out, and this is going to be important because this is a major shift in the way that the consumers look at real estate and agents, because they feel like they can look everything up and get all the answers themselves. So you have to come at it from a advisory, giving them information they don't know or don't understand, right? You have to fill in those gaps. And I think with that, it created the opportunity from brick and mortar to the cloud-based business model. That made the big change, right? So I worked for EXP for 7 years. They're one of the real pioneers in that space. I've actually, there's another company, it actually started here, Devin, Fathom Realty. Do you know Fathom?
I'm familiar with Fathom.
Okay. They're publicly traded. They have about 15,000 agents. I say 15. I almost have to put an asterisk because I did interview Josh Harley, who's the founder of Fathom. I sat down with him and I asked him kind of his input, how he got there, because he created a cloud-based model at $500 a transaction. You know, if you were already successful, that sounds like a really good opportunity. I don't need my broker. I just want basic services. And then I want to run and build my own brand as fast and as profitable as I can. So that was a really good niche offer. And he started around the time EXP started. So really big opportunity there. And he was pointing out some of the things that happened when all this was going on, where people they were paying 20, 30, 40% of their commission to a broker that did nothing for that transaction. He's like, well, here's a solution. I'll just make it a lot less expensive and only give you what you need and do online training. So the cloud-based model really took off. The big change that's happened over the last 5 to 10 years, because cloud-based model now we're coming in 20 years now, is people really love the leverage, but they don't have the connection. They don't have people to meet with. They don't have relationships with other agents that are in the space with them. And one of the unique things that brick and mortars, this is what I feel like is probably one of the biggest challenges they have, is they create secrecy, non-collaboration, right? So you go to the office. So we have a KW office down the street. It's got probably 600-700 agents in it. They're all working 2 zip codes, right?
Yeah.
You're in their neighborhood. That guy sitting next to you is looking at the same buyer and seller that I'm looking at. You're not going to collaborate. You're not going to communicate. You're not going to be open. You know, I'm trying to break that, and I share everything that I do and have success in with everyone, because for one, they're never going to be me and I'm never going to be them.
Amen.
So even if they did exactly what I'm doing, they're going to have completely different results than what I have. So I think it's important that we get more collaborative and stop being so competitive. You know, I try to approach every relationship or every transaction that happens, because I'm still in production now. I'm building systems to get out of production, but I am still in production. I still work directly with agents, and I'm always looking for a way to collaborate. We're not here, you know, to force one side to take everything.
That's right.
There's a way we can all achieve buyer peace of mind, which is the goal for the buyer agent, and then seller getting a net that they need and they can live with. That's really your top 2 goals on probably 90% of transactions. If you can hyper focus on that, then you can start making the transactions way more simple.
Well, what you're talking about too, Shaune, is an abundance mindset, right? You're approaching it from an abundance mindset. First off, you know your value, you know what you bring to the table. Secondly, you know your sphere and the people that you're marketing to, which is different than most people's value propositions. Because as you said, most people are just out there running and gunning, trying to hit every single target. And you know the target that you're after. So that gives you that confidence and that flexibility to be able to sit down and say, no, I'm going to share what I'm doing with others, because we can all have success. And if we can help level each other up, right, we're also going to provide a better service to the people that we serve. And that's super important, right? Like, that's what we're here for, is we want to help provide people with a pathway to what they want to achieve. And if we can combine forces and share those ideas, we level up together and we serve our people better.
I always think scarcity is the enemy of mental freedom. Okay. I mean, when you feel like there's never enough, I always have to take from someone else, then you're never going to have real mental freedom. You're always going to be a kind of bondage or hostage to your own way of thinking.
That's right.
So I think what you say is exactly right.
Well, I want to talk about a couple of things. You know, one of the things that you and I chatted about is value and how it changes everything. And one of the quotes that you made from our last conversation really stood out. You said, in the absence of value, price is negotiable.
It took me months to finally get that quote down. I don't know why it just didn't. And it finally just clicked with me. And the reason why it's so incredibly important is because if you don't add value to your client, then you can be negotiated on your price.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll give a couple of simple illustrations. I've finally gotten to the point. I've got this where it makes sense. If you go to a store and you had 3 separate competing products on the shelf and they were all exactly doing the same thing, then the only thing you're going to do is buy the cheapest one.
Yeah.
Why would I pay more for the same results? So think about it from agents' standpoint. You've got 3 agents that show up to a listing appointment. The first one says, I'm going to put it on the market. I'm going to do an open house. I'm going to put a sign in the yard, and then I'm going to start praying. And the second one says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And the third one says the exact same thing. The seller's going to look at all 3, and they're either going to pick on taste, which means someone they kind of clicked better with.
That's right.
That creates kind of like a 5 to 10% difference. I mean, you're almost exactly the same. Then they'll go for that one and say, hey, I've already got 2 other agents that will do exactly what you're doing for. Will you do it for 1.5%? And that's the first thing they're going to do.
Go straight to price.
So if you don't know how to add value to the consumer, the seller, and the buyer's the same, they just have a different mentality of where they're approached, then you're going to be negotiated. And it frustrates agents all the time. But I do all this work, and they give out a list of all the things they're doing. All the things you list out is what every agent on the planet can do. They can call the guy next door, and he's going to offer the same thing. So, and I think it's really important. In the absence of value, price is negotiable.
That's it. And I completely agree with you. At the end of the day, we all go to the grocery store, and sometimes we look at those products and we're debating on, well, is this one really better than the other? I'll tell you what, I literally did this the other day, Shaune, because I couldn't decide, right? It's like, man, there's so many different products here. And I took my phone out and I took a picture and I popped it into ChatGPT and I said, which one of these products should I buy and why? Right. And it literally labeled them all out and it put its top choice up, and it certainly wasn't the most expensive, right? It gave me the values behind why I should buy that product. It gave me why that price point was acceptable, and it wasn't the cheapest either. I would throw that out there too. It wasn't the most expensive. It wasn't the cheapest. It was somewhere in the middle, but it was because it was providing something that the other ones were not, right? And I think this just justifies your point, is that if you're going to market with the same arrows in the quiver that everybody else is, right? Then it goes down to personal preference. Do I trust this person, right? And that can lead back to brand, right? That can lead back to brand, because now if they have seen you socially and they've seen your brand and they go, man, I really like this person, and they're offering the same thing, right? Then they may pick you over the other 2. But as you mentioned, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to negotiate the price. So let's talk about that. How did guarantees completely change those conversations for you, Shaune?
Yeah, it's a great question, Devin. I love that question. So if I have, for me, and I'll go ahead and say it up front. So I've made a move to a new brokerage, and our brokerage name is Your Home Sold Guaranteed. Okay. Now remember, I talked about brands don't do anything for selling real estate for you.
Right.
They could care less if you're a KW, Coldwell Banker, EXP. They just don't care. But if the name of your brand is a value proposition to both the buyer and the seller,
right,
then the name matters. And it also matters on Google. When they look you up, they don't look up KW and they don't look up EXP. And if they do, they're just going to get, the 10,000 agents that are over there. What they're doing is saying, I need to guarantee the sell. And all of a sudden, I become the first choice. So the brand is actually selling and working for me and bringing me buyers or sellers that have that need. So when I go to a listing presentation, I should say selling presentation, because I actually don't list on the MLS. That's a whole nother conversation we can talk about. And when I meet with the seller, they're hiring you to do one thing, to sell the home.
That's it.
Do they care if the buyer comes from Zimbabwe or they come next door? They don't care, as long as they reach their goal of the net in the time frame they need. They don't have 5 years to sell. They don't have the typical 90 to 120 days we're seeing on days in market. They don't want to wait, and they don't want to have 100 showings. It's very frustrating. So I make a proposition to them. I'm going to guarantee to sell the home when you want to sell, for what you want to sell for, at no hassle. That's the guarantee that I make to sellers, to give them peace of mind, that they now have peace of mind on the sell of the property. And if they need to buy, it's really hard to go and put your house on the market and not know where you're going to go. Not know, or if we buy a home, I don't know if my home's going to sell in time.
Right.
Now they can literally put it up, and then we can go pick out a home. And then because I'm guaranteeing the sale of the home, we can even buy that home knowing that their home is going to sell. If you offer that, then the seller can't come back and say, well, will you do it for 1%? No, they don't. And I've been on probably 20 or 30 presentations in the last few months, and not one has asked me to discount, because I don't have a competing company that can do that. When you don't have competition and you're offering value to the seller, your commission stops being negotiable. It's amazing. So that's on the sell side.
That's what I was going to say. You have more than one guarantee, though. So you've got the guarantee that you're going to sell the home, but there's more to the proposition. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So the other one is, let's talk time. How am I going to guarantee the time? Well, I'm going to kind of conjoin it with the little to no hassle, okay? Because no one wants to do 100 showings. So the way we do it is I go and I don't put it on the MLS. I'm going to tell you a little secret about the MLS. This is going to blow some minds. This will definitely ruffle feathers. This is why I don't want to be a member of NAR. I don't need NAR to have MLS, and they're not doing anything for me. And I don't need the title realtor. Realtor means nothing to the general public now. It doesn't add value. So that's a whole nother topic too, right? Getting out of NAR and all the other things.
Right.
Or how about the MLS? So MLS actually devalues property. Okay. I have my home. If my identical home were on the MLS for 90 days with 3 price drops,
right,
and nobody's moving after getting 10,000 eyeballs on it, and then I have my home that I don't put on the MLS, I target buyers directly. They don't see days on market. They don't see price drops. And there's a scarcity in it because it's an exclusive opportunity. Mm-hmm. So now the buyer feels like, wow, look at this. I found this secret home. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And when you match those things together, the conversion is incredibly high. Okay. So MLS devalues property because over time the home becomes worth less. If I can't sell it to 10,000 eyeballs, how in the world, it just means that nobody wants it.
It becomes the Richard meal, right? It's like, hey, everybody wants one if they can afford it, right? Not everybody, but if they're watch enthusiasts and they want a Richard, they want one. They can go to a boutique, they can't see it. It's not there, right? More importantly, even if it was there, they couldn't purchase it until somebody calls upon their name and says, hey, you can have this product today, right? And that's what you're talking about here is you've got this white elephant home that nobody's seen, right? They don't know where it is. It's not available, and it's not in a sea of other homes that look exactly the same. And now all of a sudden it becomes available, but they know about it and nobody else does, and they might be able to have a crack at purchasing it.
So here's where the limited or the no hassle aspect is. This is where it starts building. I create a database, and when I meet with sellers, I said, look, I'm not looking for 10,000 eyeballs. I know that's the old mindset. Again, we're talking counterculture agent. We got to break the way people think about real estate. They think more. The more people that see it that don't buy it means it's overpriced. I don't know how to make it any more simple. What happens is I tell my sellers, look, I'm only looking for about 10 to 15 buyers. That's all we need.
Yeah.
And guess what? They don't get to all come look at it. The way we do it is I prepare something called a certified pre-owned package. And I'm going to explain what that is in a minute. And I get everything about that house created, and the buyer now has access to see everything about it. The seller's disclosure, we do a clue report, which is where they look for insurance claims. We open title and complete A, B, C, and D. So I know all judgments, liens, and anything affecting the title. And why is that important? Because I can take a cash offer and close in 3 days if we need to. Okay. That doesn't mean the seller has to move out. We can do a lease back, but the fact that I can convert that cash buyer's hot, they give us what we want. They take it as is. And it gives me access to a buyer that nobody else has access to because they have everything about the house up front. And I'm going to do a pre-inspection. Okay. I don't necessarily fix everything on the pre-inspection. The purpose of a pre-inspection isn't to show a perfect house. The purpose of a pre-inspection is to prevent negotiations when you go under contract, and it's unbelievably effective. I've now had 4 contracts where all the agents got really frustrated in the option period, because the normal process is, I won the home. Okay, Mr. Buyer, now we get to negotiate all these repairs.
That's it.
Uh-oh, we're not finding anything new. Okay, well, let's throw out stuff. Let's get on the roof. Let's get a plumber out there. And they start throwing things out at the house, and they realize, well, now we can't negotiate anything, because you can't negotiate things you already know when you make an offer. Okay. That's
so you're talking about complete transparency at the time that the contract is written, which is unheard of. It doesn't happen. But now, because you're getting those inspections done up front at the time of negotiation, everybody knows what's going on with this property.
That's right.
And if they've agreed to it, there is no additional negotiation after an inspection comes back.
So if I listed it for market or above market price, expecting to get negotiated, which is the way agents typically do it, because the seller has this high bar of where they think the house should sell. They all do. They're all attached to it. There's a psychological aspect to it. And I tell sellers, you do know you're the highest buyer, right? I try to get them under that mindset. But now when I'm going through the presentation, they stop fighting me on list price, or what we're going to price it at. I give them a range. I give them a net at the lowest possible part of the range, and I guarantee that net. And the net is something they'll agree to because they agree to the range. And then I might even price it 5% below that when I put it out there. So now it looks incredibly attractive. And I only promote things that give it value well above what it's worth. So it creates an incredible amount of energy. This is where the psychology takes over. Whenever we are ready to show it, I do this for 2 weeks, not on the MLS. I target buyers, I find them, I present it, I build the case, and then I say, okay, the day is coming, 1 o'clock, 1 hour on Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, whatever works best for me. I will let everybody come to the house at the exact same time. When you have an open house and you do it for 2 hours and you get 5 or 6 people through, there's no sense of urgency.
That's right.
When you do it for 1 hour and you have 40 to 50 come through it, which I just did on the last one I did, 50 people came through that house. You get, I got to have it. It changes everything. So it's amazing the way that works. I'm going to come back to, now remember, from the seller standpoint, they did a 1 hour open house.
Yeah.
If you talk to a seller and said, hey, do you mind I just have 1 hour to sell your house? You never have to do another showing. What are they going to say? Like, nobody wants to do showings. It's so painful. If you take that off the table, it's amazing how easy it is. The seller, like, okay, I'm in.
Whatever. I want to walk back through that too, Shaune, because, again, what you described here is, we all know the traditional way of purchasing real estate. Quite frankly, a lot of times we're taking the home to the agent and saying, hey, we found this one on Zillow and we'd like to go look at it, because everybody has access to see it, right? Now, if you got a great agent, they may know of some hidden gems, right, that are off market and haven't listed yet, but that's not how all agents work. What you're talking about is the house doesn't go on Zillow. It doesn't go on MLS. People can't see the home. The only people that can see the home are that you want to show the home. You're target marketing the people that you want to show the home to, letting them know that you're going to have a special 1 hour viewing, that they can come and see this particular property. There's complete transparency over what the home is going to sell for. There's complete transparency over any potential blemishes that the home may have. And now they're at an open house with 30 to 50 people, in your case, 40 to 50 people, who all want to buy this house, or the majority of them do, right? And there's urgency. We have to move quick, because the other 39 people in this room, they may buy it out from under us if we don't make an offer right now, versus a traditional open house where everybody's seen the property, everybody knows that it exists, anybody can look it up. It doesn't matter if they're in the DFW or if they're in Timbuktu, they can go to Zillow and they can see that house. And when an open house is done, maybe 5 to 6 people stroll through, and some of them are just tire kickers or neighbors that want to see what your house looks like, right? Yep. Here you have real buyers who are really interested, who are showing up for a property that they know everything about, and they can see in that room the other people that they're potentially going to be bidding against.
There's so many power tools that are used in this space. For example, when those 50 people, I probably can get 5 to 6 of them to fill out pre-approvals before they show up. These are things that agents can't do. They're just like, oh, okay, just come out and check it out. You can schedule it anytime,
Yeah.
but I'll be standing there for 2 hours, so you can come look at it while I'm there.
Yeah.
There's no strength. There's no power there. The psychology is completely off. It doesn't matter. Like I could show up to the open house or not show up. No big deal. I just go schedule it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it just takes away all of that. And it really frustrates agents because they're like, man, my buyer's not going to be in town. I said, well, they're going to lose it. They're going to lose it. Now I'm going to give you the other side. This is where I gave you things that I'm doing for the seller. Now let's talk about buyers. This is where things separate on the buyers.
It's huge.
I also charge a lot more commission on the buy side. Oh, let me go back to one thing. I create something, and I mentioned this earlier, called a certified pre-owned. Okay. A certified pre-owned home, meaning I'm going to guarantee that home to the buyer for 2 years, or I'm going to buy it back. You think a buyer would appreciate knowing they're buying something with some confidence when they know that I'm making a guarantee on the home?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do I do that? The way I do that is I create a certified pre-owned home, and I gave you a lot of the things I'm providing to them up front. And the reason why it works is because I'm able to know everything about the home. Those are what I'm going to guarantee. If it becomes something unknown, things that people don't know, then that's where we have to work it out with the end buyer in the next 2 years. And I also offer to sell it for free if they're unhappy with the home as well. I want to make sure they get the right home for them. So I'm going to save them considerable amount of money when we go to sell, so they don't have to have 3-year minimum to cover all the costs to sell. And the certified pre-owned, it costs a seller $2,000 up front. I take deposits before I will even take a seller agreement.
Wow.
No one does that.
Yeah.
So we work in an industry where we work for 6 months for free and hope to get paid. Okay. I know for sure you do. You get them approved. Everything works out. They get a week before closing. Oh, I don't like your interest rate. I found something cheaper. Whatever it is, right? And then you get nothing. Maybe they pay the appraiser, but that's about the only thing you can get out of them.
Well, and that doesn't go to us. That goes to the appraiser, right? At the end of the day, any of those third-party expenses are going directly to the third party. So there's literally no compensation in the event that happens the way that you just described, right?
I'm saying you're not out the money.
Right.
But you're not making any
money, right? Because you're out the money for the cost of a credit report, right? You're out for the money for the time that was lost and spent in helping those particular individuals, and ultimately you have worked for free over that period of time. So there's definitely no guarantees in compensation, where what you're talking about is you're transitioning that on the real estate side so that there is compensation and it's happening right up front.
And it's really not for profit. What it's doing is it's allowing me to create a certified pre-owned home.
Right.
And whenever you take a deposit, things happen a lot faster. Okay. When you go and meet with the seller, sellers are not eager to get people in their house to show it. And they don't want to go through the stress of doing, because it's hard. But all of a sudden, when they put up $2,000, they're like, okay, we're going to get all this stuff in the garage. We're going to get all the personal stuff taken down. And then I'll schedule photos when I'm meeting with them. Great. I'm going to schedule photos in 5 days. So let's execute. And now they're motivated. And if something doesn't work, or we just can't get the home sold for whatever the reason is, they're coming back to you because they have investment with you. Okay. Now let's go to the certified pre-owned product. So a buyer comes and they see my property, and I said, hey, I'm glad you like it. I've got a couple of things I can do for you. One is, if you buy my home, I will guarantee it for up to 2 years, or I'll buy it back. And then the second thing I can offer them is, if they buy my home, I'll buy their home cash. So they don't have to be worried about the sale of their property. I can take that condition off the table. And here's where it's really powerful. When you promote that, and you have, think about the 15 buyers I'm targeting. There's probably about 60% of them have a home to sell, and they won't show up unless you can make that value proposition to them. I'm taking people off the couch.
Yeah.
Come look at the house, because if they like my home, I can buy their home and take that condition off.
It's huge.
That's a massive amount of opportunity and buyers that agents can't reach. So that's a value proposition made to them. And the last thing is, I'm able to find homes that agents can't find. They're not on the MLS, because remember, I do a lot of my stuff off market.
Right.
And I have access to homes that are not listed, that are not available to the general agent, and they're not going to go out there and try to find them. So that's a value proposition I make to buyers that work with me, is that I'm going to find homes that fit what you're looking for. And we're not going to, and I don't say this, but we're not going to go look at 30 houses and just have flavor on everything.
Right.
We're going to isolate it down to what you want. We're going to go out 2 times, 3 houses each day, and we're going to pick out a home. That's the expectation, because no one wants to drive around all the time either. They want to find what they need, and then we're going to execute it. So we all have a good time invested through the entire process. So that's the other thing that I do. And in both sides, they can fire me at any time. To access the off-market properties and be a part of that, I charge a buyer $1,000 upfront deposit, so they get exclusive homes they would have access to.
It's huge.
Take a deposit on buyers too.
That's huge, man.
Everything changes when you do this.
It does. It does. Well, Shaune, I hate to end this one abruptly, but I've got something that I've got to take care of in the background.
Of course. Yeah.
And I know we talked about doing some follow-up sequences to this. And I think after we do part 1 to this, we've got a lot of questions that are going to pop up for the part 2. So, guys and gals, I hope that you're really enjoying what Shaune is talking about here. And I'm super excited to bring him back on. And we've even talked about maybe making this a weekly segment, if that's something that you're up to, Shaune. I know I'm up for it, and out there to our audience as well. If you guys want to see that as well, just drop it into the comments. Sure. But Shaune, anything that you'd like to close out with before we wrap today?
For those out there, I'm easily accessible. I know Jessica asked a question. We had a couple of questions. You can reach out to me directly, and I can explain how I find buyers. And I know who to target. I know exactly kind of what I'm looking for and how they come up. And I'm sure you can leave all of my information as well. I've got a Facebook group for agents out there. Real Estate Success with Shaune Corbett, the Facebook group. I have a Facebook group there. I have a community that I am building that has a subscription built, and people will have access to me directly there. That is something that is 95% done. My book will come out probably in the next month or 2. I got to do proofreading. Well, I'm done with the proofreading. I got to get other people to read it to make sure it's going to hit the market the way I want it to. And it has to do with building your sphere system the simple way. The simple sphere system is what it's called. And it will allow you to tap into your database and generate 30 to 40 closings a year just with your own audience. So that's a simple system that I've created and set up for you. So
there may be some technology he's working on behind that as well. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but he's got some really cool tech stuff.
I'll give the 20-second version. I do have a way that I connect with my audience, and I have about 1,500 people in my contact list that I know personally, and I hit them 4 times a year on random text, thinking of them texts. You do that. I would say every single day I send out 10. I get one every day that says, "Hey, it's great to hear from you. We're looking to sell next year." I'm not kidding. So,
well, this is coming from his personal cell phone number, but it's automated. So it's actually happening on its own. He's having 10 potential conversations a day with people that he's worked with in the past. And it's done in a way that feels very natural and very organic. And that's what it's all about. So if you want to find Shaune, he mentioned, getting in touch with him on the web. You can find him at realestatesuccessdfw.com. realestatesuccessdfw.com. If you're tuning in, you're watching, you can see it running right across the bottom of the screen. And I'm sure you can find all of Shaune's contact information there. But if you want to find him on Instagram, go over to @Shaune, Shaune, SHAUNE, Real Estate Solutions, @Shaune Real Estate Solutions. You're going to find him on Instagram. Make sure that you follow. Make sure you make some comments, like his page. Go over to YouTube if you want to join his community and see his podcast and learn more from Shaune and the amazing guests that he's bringing on. He's had some really top tier people that have jumped on his show. Go find him at YouTube, and that's going to be at RESDFW, RESDFW. And then finally, run over to Facebook and @Shaune.Corbett. And that's Shaune, SHAUNE, Corbett, CORBETT. You're going to find him over there. Make sure, again, when you go to any of these channels, like the page, subscribe to the page. This is how we get to keep bringing back great guests and how we get to keep building great content. Same thing with me. If you're on any of my pages and you have not already liked or subscribed, please do. Please like and subscribe. We're going to keep bringing great guests just like Shaune. And more importantly, Shaune's coming back, and we're definitely going to have a part 2 to this where we wrap and talk more about results, some of the really cool tech that he's building, and the book that he has that's just right around the corner from release. So, Shaune Corbett, brother, I appreciate you coming on today, my man. This has been a great episode.
Awesome. Thank you, Devin, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And hey, out there to all you guys, thank you for tuning in every single time. Keep coming back. We're going to keep bringing great information and help you level up your real estate game, your mortgage game, or if you're a consumer looking for great advice on how you buy your next home, you've got 2 great people here right in your corner. Reach out. We'd love to help you. So until the next time, have a great day, everybody. You've been watching Loan Officer Success Live, where real strategies meet real success. Don't forget to subscribe now and share it with your teammates and keep leveling up, because your next breakthrough starts here. If this fired you up, don't just watch success, go out there and build it.